Kenya's economic state. Allow me to dive into, pardon me, the dailies this particular morning. And we do start with the Daily Nation. Right there on your screens this particular morning. On the Daily Nation, pay rise dilemma for Ruto. So 100. TSC is seeking 56 billion shillings to increase teachers' salary. The Union of Civil Servants has also demanded a pay rise, and Dr. Ruto promised police officers improved pay within 100 days of taking office. So basically, civil servants and public officers, public workers, looking up at President William Ruto and hoping for a better pay. This even as the country grapples with the financial crisis. They do have it there. So President William Ruto is under pressure to implement a pay increase for thousands of government workers who have decried high living costs, a key election promise he is struggling to deliver against a cash crunch that has cost a civil service salary delays. This story is extensive on page 4. Pardon me for that. All right. And okay, there you have it. Okay, let's focus on the Standard, even as I try to get the Daily Nation a little bit later on. So the Daily Nation still matters the same. It's a dog's life for many employees, Labour Day. Whereas many Kenyans are jobless, those in employment have little to smile about, with the high cost of living pushing a big number into poverty with no end in sight to poor remuneration. The story is extensive on page 6 and 7. Quite a numbers there to crunch the state of the economy. The number of Kenyans in 2021 vis-a-vis in 2022, it breaks it down from the employed, unemployed, underemployed, long-term unemployed, youth not in education, employment or training, persons outside labor force. Employed 17.6 in 2021, 18.4 that is in 2022. You can actually see a particular increase in that particular number. Let me just zoom out that for you so you can actually take a look at that. This is the front page of the Standard. So there is an increase. You can see about that. You can do that particular mathematics for yourself. Unemployed, the 2.7, that is in 2021. This number has increased about 0.2% in 2022. And we do wait to see the latest statistics for 2023. Will this particular number be dropping or increasing? Underemployed, 1 reduced to reduced and went to 0.9. Long-term unemployed, 0.64, 0.62. There is a particular reduction there for you. And the youth not in education, employment or training, 3.8. That is in 2021. It is a significant drop. But then the question now rises again to those, even as this particular number drops to 0.2 of the youth not in education, but then how do they actually turn around their education to have sustainable employment? Persons outside labor force, 9.5, that is in 2021, 9.6, 0.1 increase. We'll be diving into what these numbers mean. Might seem as 0.1, 0.2, but they might just be key figures. Let's pause matters Labour Day for a bit and discuss what might really happen tomorrow. The second phase, or the second season of the Ezekiel anti-government protests, if you may. We don't need in order to protest, Riley says. The Ezekiel leader says protests will go on in spite of ban by police. President William Ruto berates them not being sincere in their push to negotiation, says there's no room for them in his government. Remember, yesterday we did see Nairobi Police Regional Commander, that is Adamson Bungei, yet again in his second stab saying that there will be no protests in Nairobi. And, he actually outlawed them and said they are against the law. This, looking at the track record of the past Azimio demonstrations, which were marred by violence, chaos, loss of property and lives. So quite keen to look at that. The first time Adamson Bungei outlawed this particular protests in 19th March, that is last month. There were still protests and it quite turned ugly. We'll be taking a look at how this will be shaping up. Another key national conversation on the front page of the Standard. Government moves to regulate churches, page 5. President William Ruto says he will form a commission of inquiry to probe the Shakahola killings and also recommend ways to rein in on bogus preachers. Page 5, take a look at that. On the top of the Standard this morning, tables turn on Kinoti of high-profile cases. Matters security on page 3. Still matters security. Wild. What is happening in Sudan? Peace pact in Sudan collapses. That story is on page 24. And Tana. Irony of hunger amid plenty. Matters sports a bit for you before you dive into what the Standard is saying. This is something that Manchester City fans cannot really, be untouchable at the moment. They're back to the helm of the table. Man City sits on top of the table on page, I think that is 32, yeah. On page 32, reminds me of the whole memes that the elephant has fallen from the tree. And the elephant here is definitely Arsenal. Now, back to matters locally. DPP and DCI in silent audit of Kinoti decisions on land cases. So far, 2 high-profile land fraud cases handled by former DCI boss have been trashed by current team. Cases involving Coast tycoon Ashok Doshi and politician Jimmy Onjigi among those overturned. Can dive into that particular story. This isn't the first time we're hearing matters such. And what is happening in Kilifi and the religious extremisms? Listen to this. Yes, we picked bodies at Ezekiel's prayer center, says morgue boss. So this is a snippet of Milele Funeral Home CEO Johnson Kerr admitted to collecting bodies at televangelist Ezekiel Oduor's church premises in Mavueni, that is in Kilifi County. So the funeral home boss says that they collected the bodies from the church before they fell out with Pastor Ezekiel. Families then started ferrying the dead to the funeral home from the church premises. Quite interesting to see how things will be developing right about there. Remember, we do have boots on ground. Sharon Barang, our very own, Paul Menu, our very own, there in Mombasa and Kilifi counties, to just give you the latest on how this particular story is trending. Quite interesting numbers here. 110, this is the number of bodies exhumed at Mackenzie's farm so far. Quite interesting. The past few days, yesterday and the day before, 1 body each was exhumed. And this, even still as journalists, is still being denied entrance into the deep forest. 410 number of people still missing. This is according to the Kenya Red Cross Society. 227 missing children. Let's focus on something else here now. Also on page 4, on the right side, the left side. More Coast clerics denounce preacher want speedy probe. And still on matters, family in search of 11 members believed to have joined Mackenzie. And still touching on matters, regulating basically matters, the church and the religious extremism. Ruto to set up inquiry into deaths, tame rogue preachers. A commission of inquiry will get to the bottom of what really happened and apprehend collaborators. He says that all security personnel in Kilifi were transferred to pave way for investigations. And now to our main conversation this particular morning. Many workers grappling with job losses, high cost of living and low wages. I did take a look at those particular numbers there. And quite interesting other numbers here. The public debt, that is in 2022, the external debt 4.5, domestic debt 4.4. This the total getting to 8.9. Quite interesting thing about numbers, they say, is numbers mean having a public debt at 2022 being at 4.5, that is external debt, domestic debt being at 4.4. This coming with the backdrop of CS Professor Njuguna Dungu saying that the money that they're collecting right now, they're using it to service debts. This even as, you know, we are few months, we are in May actually, so that means that next month actually will be the reading of the budget for the next financial year. Quite a few days and quite interesting will be unfolding on matters, you know, servicing the debt and another whole, you know, load on the taxman's shoulder to actually collect 3 trillion Kenyan shillings as ordered by President William Ruto. So you can take a look at this particular story on this particular page. All indicators, pardon me, I just have that ready. Right, there you have it. All indicators that there may not be an increase in minimum wage this year. Several businesses have sent home the staff through redundancies. And we just have the next page for you. Still on matters, you know, the Labor Day, so the other numbers here. Matters agriculture, the crop production, what was in 2020 rather to 2021 from coffee production, tea, horticulture, maize, wheat and sugar cane. And you can take a look at that also. That matters politics here. Azimio defined that it will resume, mass protests tomorrow despite police outlawing it. Party plans to present a petition to the president showing that the cost of food, fuel, electricity and fees are too high. And still on matters, let me so that you can actually see this. Awotwoli tells Uhuru to be a statesman, rallies behind Ruto. You have the Court Secretary General, that is Francis Atwoli, has urged former President Uhuru Kenyatta to act like a statesman and asked opposition leader Raila Odinga to accept William Ruto's presidency. Coming on the whole backdrop of a man, whole, you know, trading movements since time immemorial have been quite vocal in the country. We'll be diving into the role of trading movements in the country and the role that they actually have to play in matters when it comes to matters the national agenda, the politics of the day. Let me brush through what is happening in the People Daily as well. Budget of promises, other big numbers here. The big question People Daily asking is who will get what? The Kenya Kwanza administration has outlined its spending plan for its first full financial year in office, pledging to spend more on education even as it projects that tax collection rise to 2.9 trillion shillings. However, it also offers some reliefs. You want to know why and what, and all those 5 W's. Get into page 4 all the way to page 14. Let's break down these particular numbers here. Tax and spend plan, 3.6 trillion Kenyan shillings, a total budget. So 2.5 trillion, that is the recurrent, 700 billion shillings, development, and on matters executive 2.2 trillion and 186 billion. Consolidated fund service 385 billion goes to counties. Is this a whole relief for the counties? They have been, you know, facing quite a huge cash crunch, as they put it. 268 billion bottom-up agenda, 40 billion for the legislature, 23 billion for the judiciary. The biggest winners here is the education sector, getting a 568.9 billion. The national security, 338 billion. roads 239.5 billion, the health sector getting 125.5 billion shillings, and the environmental protection, water and natural resources getting 115.1 billion shillings. Let's get into, rather before we actually get into that, right, pardon me. Okay, there you have it. Pastor Ezekiel's arrest over cult links leaves his allies in a bind. The story is on page 6. Let's get into what is happening in XKQ. Staff demands 15 million shillings and pay dues from the airline. Right, and from matters that, I hope now do have the Daily Nation for you. Right, I'll be getting into this particular dailies later on with the guests. Now, President William Ruto has announced his plans to set up a judicial commission of inquiry to investigate the mass graves discovered in Kilifi's Shakahola area, allegedly associated with a cult. The president was speaking when he made his first visit of West Pokot County. His story was produced by Andrew Juma, and we'll be getting into that story after this particular short break.
Radio 47 tuko nawe mchana kutwa na usiku kucha. 97.3 Nyeri.
Hi there, my name is George Washiri Optiven, and I'm very humbled to introduce to you Tulivu Gardens Phase 2. This property is adjacent to Kwanza Technopolis and only 4 minutes from the highway. This is a property whereby once you purchase it, you preserve your wealth, you build your wealth, you create your investment, create wealth for your generations. Don't miss this lifetime opportunity. Call this number right now, 0790 300 300. Optiven, inspiring possibilities. 23 years of impacting
But I know that meat looks tender, but maybe not so much when your chest is burning. Remember what happened the last time? Hey, dude, you don't listen, man. Are you testing yourself? I tried looking out for you, bro. Hey, you see now? How's the hard bud? Look now, it's burning. Do not hold back in any situation. Gets to...
See you then, don't touch.
Make sure to join us.
Tell your landlord as well. Jua unalipiwa parent.
Sikose.
It starts with you. The idea?
At some point we saw like the industry, it's not tapped in Kenya. Most of the times you see guys looking for anything Western. So we decided like, why not?
The name. The target market.
Our main demography would be the high-end fashion consumers. But as time goes by, we have expanded our demography to accommodate everyone.
The Grind, Mondays, 6:30 p.m.
All right, welcome back. This is Morning Cafe. Now, President William Ruto has announced his plans to set up a judicial commission of inquiry to investigate the mass graves discovered in Kilifi's Shakahola area, allegedly associated with the cult. The president was speaking when he made his first visit of West Pokot County.
As the government ramps up its efforts to rescue more people at the vast Shakahola forest, President William Ruto has announced the next plan that the government will engage to ensure suspects behind the heinous act face justice.
Ili kuhakikisha kwamba yale mambo yaliendelea kule Shakahola na ule mtu anaitwa Mackenzie sijui nani, ili isifanyike tena katika taifa letu la Kenya, tunaweka Judicial Commission of Inquiry so that we can get to the bottom of what really happened in Shakahola with the Mackenzie and all his collaborators. Juzi tulitransfer wale wote ambao walizembea kazini, wale commissioners, policemen, watu wa NIS, watu wa CID ambao walikuwa pale maafa ya kiwango ile ikiendelea. Tumewaambia watoke kwanza ndio tujue what really happened. So this week I will be appointing a Judicial Commission of Inquiry so that what happened in Shakahola does not happen again in the Republic of Kenya.
During a church service in West Pokot's Kapenguria, the president stated that he will approach members of the commission to ensure that justice is served and that individuals like Paul Mackenzie, who are associated with the Shakahola church, refrain from harming citizens.
Nitafanya consultation na viongozi wetu wa dini katika taifa letu la Kenya. Tuwe na task force so that we can weed out the characters who want to abuse religion, to run businesses and things that are anti-religion in the Republic of Kenya. That we want to provide a framework agreed with our religious leaders.
The president has also promised to end banditry and the cattle rustling menace in the North Rift region, with local leaders using the opportunity to urge him to resolve the insecurity issue that has largely affected the county.
Na tungekuwa na ombi moja ya kwamba kuna zile inaitwa gazetted administrative units kwa border kati yetu na majirani, divisions, locations, some locations, tungeomba hasa zile za border ziwe operationalized kabisa, ndio serikali iwe karibu na wananchi na iweze kushughulikia mambo ya ukosefu wa usalama katika mipaka yetu.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua on his part called on the community to embrace education to better the future of their children.
Na hii maneno ilikuweko ya wizi tuachane naye, tuendelee mbele. And we want to confirm your excellency, hatutaki mtu kulaumu jamii ya West Pokot kwa jumla. Kama iko wezi wa 3, 4, 5 wachukuliwe hatua kibinafsi.
And still on the same breath, lawyers representing preacher Ezekiel of New Life Church, Cliff Better and Danstan Omari had to intervene as journalists were banned from accessing the pastor's church. This is after some members of the church claim that the media has been biased and is out to tarnish the name of preacher. Our reporter Ronnie Regan with more.
Journalists covering the development at Pastor Ezekiel Odero met the full wrath of his followers who accused them of being biased and airing negative aspects of the church.
Citizen! Warongo! Warongo!
His followers say they are outraged by the arrest of the pastor, maintaining that Ezekiel has never been accused of any offense and that the government is out to tarnish his reputation.
Tazama, ni kitu cha kuhuzunisha sana ulimwengu mzima na hata katika Afrika nzima. Wale wote wanaotoka huko mataifa huko wakija huko, wote wanakuja kukimbilia nani? Kukimbilia huyu, kupitia kusikia na kuona kwa TV.
Okay, sijakaa kwa hili kanisa sana, nina miezi miwili kwa hili kanisa. Na hili kanisa limenisaidia pakubwa sana. In fact nilikuwa mtu mbaya sana. Pia kupitia kwa hili kanisa limenisaidia. Na wakati nilisikia pastor anatajwa kwa mambo kama yale, yenyewe nina uchungu kabisa.
The media has been closely following and updating Kenyans on what is happening at Shakahola and by extension the activities of the now controversial preacher Ezekiel Odero.
Tutaingia moja kwa moja kufanya hiyo kazi, kisha alafu tutarudi na kuwahutubia. Kwa hivyo nikubalie niingie na wanahabari. Citizen ndio tunaenda nao. Wacha waende tu. Wacheni waende tu. Tulia. Sikizeni. Mimi ndio nimesema tunaingia na watu wa Citizen. Tutaingia na kila mtu ambaye ni wa habari. Hatutaki mtu yeyote azuiliwe wa vyombo vya habari, sababu itasemekana kwamba basi kuna kitu kinafichwa. Kwa hivyo wale ambao ni wanahabari.
The preacher was arrested on Thursday last week for allegedly involving in deaths of controversial preacher Paul Mackenzie's followers in Shakahola, Malindi, Kilifi County.
Kama wakati walipomubeba sijafanya kazi mpaka leo. Ninashindwa ni kutoka hapa kuenda nyumbani, kwa kwani nikifika nyumbani inafaa niwe na shilingi ya kuachia familia.
Ezekiel's lawyers led by Dan Omari speaking to the press stressed that the preacher is not involved in any way in the deaths reported in Shakahola, adding that there is no evidence adduced this far linking the preacher to Paul Mackenzie.
Pastor, there is no iota linking him to the crime that they are investigating. It is illegal, it is unconstitutional, it is what we say, the persecution of Christianity.
Preacher Ezekiel Odero is awaiting court decision on Tuesday this week. Ronnie Reagan, TV 47.
And let's switch gears, and the much anticipated Azimio la Umoja demonstrations slated for Tuesday have been outlawed due to the previous track record, which led to the loss of property and lives. This is according to Nairobi Regional Police Commander Adamson Bungei. A face-off between police officers and the Azimio la Umoja coalition is looming yet again. This follows a directive by Nairobi Regional Police Commander Adamson Bungei, warning that the planned protests on Tuesday have been outlawed.
So this therefore indicates very clearly to the Kenyans of goodwill that there will be no demonstration within the city of Nairobi, because we are guided by the law. And as I put it very clear, as per Section 5 of the same Article 37, we must ensure that Kenyans are safe.
While maintaining his tough stance Sunday, the Nairobi Police boss noted that the request to hold the demos, as written by Azimio Chairman of the Executive Council, Wycliffe Oparanya, on April 26th, was declined due to the previous track record of the Azimio protest last month, which was marred by violence, loss of property and lives.
The Azimio demonstrations were nothing but peaceful. As such, by this letter, we are declining to allow the Azimio team the go-ahead to proceed with the demonstration, and any such demonstration will be dispersed by law enforcement officers.
After jetting back into the country Friday, following a trip abroad, Azimio leader Raila Odinga urged his supporters to turn up in large numbers and snake their way to Moi Avenue, Kenyatta Avenue, Haile Selassie Avenue and Harambee Avenue. However, Bungei has warned the opposition faction that the police officers are under strict orders to disperse any protesters.
As per Section 5 of the same Article 37, we must ensure that Kenyans are safe. And if the requirements or the applications of the so-called team does not meet the thresholds of the same, then therefore the mandate of the police, it is to regulate, it is to control, and to ensure that Kenyans are safe.
Bungei's tough talk comes a month after his address that outlawed the Azimio demos that brought some parts of the country to a standstill. And on the flip side, Azimio Moja One Kenya Coalition is waiting on police remarks that they will not allow them to hold the scheduled protests on Tuesday this week. Speaking on Sunday afternoon, Azimio leaders said that they do not require permission from the police or anybody else to hold the protests. And as Mike Kagwongo reports, the coalition leader Raila Odinga in a statement said stopping the demonstrations will be akin to suspending the Constitution of Kenya.
Speaking during a church service at Cathedral of Praise Ministries Church in Imara Daima Sunday, Azimio la Umoja coalition leaders maintain that they do not require permission from the police or anybody else to hold the protests.
People are joyous. They come to meet us, they listen to us with song and dance. Violence only occurs when introduced by the police with their brutality.
The police have got a more urgent duty to deal with the rampant insecurity and banditry in the North Rift, and also to pursue the killers, those who have killed hundreds of people in Kilifi.
But when a government or people in power illegitimately decides to take away a right that we have given to ourselves through deaths of people, the multi-party democracy, we as Kenyans must stand up and say no.
According to the opposition, Inspector General of Police Japheth Koome and Nairobi Police Boss Adamson Bungei are allegedly the sole source of violence in Azimio, adding that their demonstrations are peaceful.
Wacha makasiriko mingi. Wacha kujipiga kifua. Maandamano haihitaji ruhusa yako au ya polisi. Tutaandamana Jumanne sababu ni haki yetu.
The opposition's remarks come after Bungei said while the constitution allows every citizen to peaceably and unarmed to assemble and to demonstrate, to picket and to present petitions to public authorities, that right is not absolute.
Kama ataendelea na kutisha wananchi, tumesema hapa kanisani, mtu hawezi kujipiga kifua, serikali ya kujipiga kifua na kutoa hasira, kusema mutaniona.
Nataka kuambia Bungei ya kuwa hatujaomba ruhusa ya kufanya maandamano, sababu katiba inatuambia tumpatie tu notification.
In a statement Sunday afternoon, the opposition leader Raila Odinga said stopping the demonstrations would be akin to suspending the Constitution of Kenya. Odinga said, and I quote, "Unless Mr. Ruto wants to suspend the Constitution and rule by decree, we will exercise our right to assemble, demonstrate, picket and present petitions on Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023, as earlier announced, dark threats notwithstanding." End of quote. According to Odinga, the demonstrations will include a stop at 4 various government offices in the country. Odinga said they shall present a petition to the IEBC showing that the election results were doctored and demand an audit of the servers. They shall equally present a petition to the office of the president proving that the cost of food, fuel, electricity and fees remain unacceptable high. The team will also be visiting the National Treasury to petition for the immediate release of all funds owed by counties and the timely payment of the salaries to all civil servants. Odinga said they plan to visit the Public Service Commission to demand the appointments to public offices be done purely on the basis of merit and inclusivity, not tribe, as is presently the case.
You are tempting the untemptable. Please.
Following President William Ruto's remarks that he is the commander-in-chief, the opposition reminded the head of state that the powers, responsibilities and functions of a commander-in-chief, which he says he is, are clearly spelled out in the Constitution and do not include the overthrow of the Constitution. The Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition began nationwide demonstrations against the high cost of living, the electoral injustices, among other issues on March 20th. Mike Kagwango, TV 47, Nairobi.
And meanwhile, Kenya Kwanza allies have told off retired President Uhuru Kenyatta for being involved in active politics. This comes amid plans by the Azimio coalition to get back to mass action. And as Flora Lemuki reports, Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, has reiterated his plea to prevent retired President Uhuru Kenyatta from receiving a pension due to his involvement in politics.
Former President Uhuru Kenyatta's visit to the Jubilee headquarters at a time when his party is crumbling down has sparked reactions from leaders allied to the ruling government as they term the move as unconstitutional. National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has renewed the call to have the former head of state denied pension over his involvement in politics 6 months after his tenure came to an end.
You are the president of the people of Kenya regardless of your party. And you have retired, you must go and stay in peace.
Wakati umestaafu kama rais, tunataka tukuheshimu na tukuenzi kama rais. Na uwe umuombe rais ambaye anachukua hatamu baada yako afaulu. Rais wetu ambaye amestaafu, Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, usiitikie kupelekwa kwa kona ile tuliona last week ya maneno ati ya kuandamana kwa ofisi. Usiitikie hawa watu wa kuweka sufuria kwa kichwa.
At the same time, the leaders have castigated Azimio's move to get back to nationwide mass protest, saying it is derailing the development agenda. This comes amid a stalemate that threatens to rock bipartisan talks planned to be held by both coalitions to find a long-lasting solution to issues raised.
Wale wanaandamana wanafukuza investors katika urban centers. Na wale wanasumbua wakulima hapa na wafugaji sasa wanahakikisha kwamba zile hidden treasures za West Pokot mtu hataguza.
Ni kweli Wakenya wako na haki ya kuandamana na kufanya yale yote wanataka kufanya. Na pale bunge tulisema tuko tayari kuongea ili tusuluhishe mambo ambayo yanahusu wa Kenya. Do not allow, Mr. President, anarchy to roam aimlessly in our streets.
The Raila Odinga-led coalition is championing for the lowering of the high cost of living, among other issues. Flora Lemuki, TV 47.
Let's pause politics for a bit now. The busy Nairobi-Mai Mahiu Narok Highway has been temporarily closed after a section of the road developed huge visible cracks, stretching close to 6 kilometers and almost to the Mahiu town. Kenya National Highway Authority has advised motorists plying that route to use alternate roads to reach their destination as engineers move in to repair the section of the road.
Sunday, transport along the Nairobi-Mai Mahiu road was disrupted, with hundreds of motorists left stranded following damages along the Mai Mahiu Narok Highway after cracks emerged at Mafuta area near Mai Mahiu. The cracks, stretching for 6 kilometers, forced the Kenya National Highway Authorities (KENHA) to temporarily close the route over safety concerns. The already stranded motorists who were stuck in a traffic build-up were forced to come up with possible alternative routes to make it to their destinations, with some taking little caution about their safety. Kenya National Highways Authority has issued a statement advising motorists to use alternative routes as engineers embark on repairing the road. The alternative routes include the Narok-Kisiriri-Mau Summit Njoro Turn-off Road and Narok-Bomet-Kaplong Road. According to KENHA, the cause of the cracks is yet to be established, with preliminary reports attributing it to the ongoing rains and earth movements. However, the road is prone to perennial damages, notably during heavy rains. The route is a busy highway that connects the country's capital to the South Rift, the world-famous Masai Mara Game Reserve, Western Kenya and Nyanza. Moige William, TV 47.
Now, a family of 6 escaped death narrowly after a landslide destroyed their house at night at Thungura village in the Kirinyaga County. According to the survivors, led by the owner of the homestead, Samuel Murimi, the incident occurred at around 2 a.m. when he was in a deep sleep. Murimi, who is unwell, said he could do nothing because he only heard his wife and grandchildren shouting that the house was collapsing. Tabitha Wanjiru.
Nĩgetha tũhote kweheria macinga ma mere nyũmba-inĩ.
Now, imagine being visually impaired and having to overcome all odds to prove wrong the negative stereotypes surrounding disabled individuals. This is the inspiring story of Rose Chipchumba, a Swahili English teacher at St. Barnabas Gov't Secondary School in Kapsabet, Nandi County. Our Nandi-based correspondent Chris Bett had the privilege of meeting with Rose and capturing her remarkable journey.
It is 8:30 in the morning at St. Barnabas Gov't Secondary School, located at the outskirts of Kapsabet town in Nandi County. Despite facing visual challenges, Rose, a Swahili teacher, wakes up early and seamlessly teaches students from one class to another, including those who are visually able. She enters the classroom. She delivers her responsibilities like the rest of her fellow colleagues. At the age of 12 years, Rose lost her ability to see due to health complications, which almost ended her dreams. She narrates her story to us.
Nilisomea pale kwenye shule ya msingi ya Gov't Primary mpaka wakati 2003 nilipoweza kupoteza uwezo wangu wa kuona kutokana na kile ambacho hakikuweza kujulikana ama kubainika waziwazi wakati huo. Hivyo basi nilipopoteza uwezo wa kuona nikiwa kwenye shule ya msingi darasa la 6, nikaweza kwenda kwenye kujiunga na shule ya wasiona kule Siaya ambayo ni St. Oda, ambapo niliweza kumaliza shule ya msingi. Nikaja nikajiunga na shule ya upili pale Nairobi, Moi Girls, nikamaliza kidato cha 4 na nikaweza kujiunga na chuo kikuu ambao ni Maseno University. Hapo ndipo niliweza kuhitimu kwenye uwanja wa kufunza.
Unfortunately, the medical report confirmed that her condition could not be reversed, and this was a devastating reality that Rose found difficult to come to terms with it. At one point, she even contemplated ending her life through suicide.
Nilipopoteza uwezo wangu wa kuona, haikuwa kwamba ni rahisi. Si kitu ambapo leo ukiamka asubuhi ukaambiwa leo huwezi kuona na jana ulikuwa unaona na siku zingine zote zilizopita. Alafu utafika hapo na kuja kufurahia kwamba kumbe siwezi kuona. Si rahisi. Nilipopoteza mimi ilikuwa kwamba nilikuwa na wakati mgumu sana. Ilifikia wakati ambapo mimi mwenyewe nilitaka sana kujiondoa uhai kwa sababu mimi niliona kwamba sina maana tena duniani.
Eventually, Rose made the decision to go back to school. She was admitted at St. Oda Special School for Visually Impaired in Siaya.
Hatimaye nikaamua kutoroka nyumbani. Kwa hivyo kwenda kwangu pale St. Oda School for the Blind, si kuwa kwamba nilikuwa naenda kusoma, lakini kulingana na mimi nilitaka sana mahali ambapo sijulikane na mtu yeyote, watu hawanijui. Lakini nilipofika kule mambo yakaweza kugeuka, kwa sababu niliweza kupatana na wenzangu wengi, nikashangaa kumbe hata si mimi peke yangu.
In this school, Rose was able to overcome stigmatization and accept her condition. She learned how to cope with the disability and start a new life.
Walemavu katika jamii kukubalika kwetu ni ngumu. Kwa hivyo hata mimi mwenyewe niliweza kuwania kiti cha ubunge cha Mgwen, ambapo sikuweza kufanikiwa kukipata kiti kile, na kilichochangia mimi kutopata kiti kile ni ulemavu.
Passionately, Rose embraces her teaching profession even though she lacks teaching aids such as braille books. Considering St. Barnabas Tegat Secondary School, where she teaches, does not offer special education for learners.
Kuna changamoto ambazo tunaweza kuzipitia wakati ambapo unafunza. Kama kwa mfano ukiangalia kwenye shule hii yetu ya Mtakatifu Barnaba, ni shule ambayo ni shule ya kawaida. Kwa hivyo havina vile vifaa ambazo sisi tunahitaji wakati wa ufunzaji, kama kwa mfano vitabu, mashine ya braille havipo.
Having embraced a condition, Rose is now able to do most things with minimal assistance.
Kwa sasa kukubaliana kwangu, nimeweza kukubali kabisa, mpaka kwa sasa najifanyia kila kitu. Nikiwa kwangu naweza kujipikia, kujifulia, kufanya kila kitu pale kwangu. Ninawalea hata na watoto.
However, Rose urges her fellow colleagues to embrace their professions.
Walimu walio na uwezo, mimi ninawaambia kwamba tuweze kupenda kazi yetu. Pendeni kazi yenu. Ikiwa kwamba umependa kazi yako, basi utapata kwamba hakuna chochote ambacho kitaweza kukuzuia.
Rose's story teaches us that physical disability should not hinder us from pursuing our dreams in life. Chris Bet, TV 47.
Thank you for that, Chris Bent. And definitely, disability is not inability. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back to discuss matters, the future of labor market in the country with the governance expert, Peter Mushindo. Stick around.
But I know that meat looks tender, but maybe not so much when your chest is burning. Remember what happened the last time? Hey, dude, you don't listen, man. Are you testing yourself? I tried looking out for you, bro. Hey, you see now? How's the heartburn? Look now, it's burning.
Do not hold back in any situation. Eno gets to work on the 6 symptoms of heartburn fast.
You do know you said all of that out loud, right?
If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Beyond the Limit. We have not even scratched the surface when it comes to knowledge about disability. Beyond the Limit with me, Zainab Mohammed, every Saturday at 7:30 p.m.
Hi there, my name is George Washiri Optiven, and I'm very humbled to introduce to you Tulivu Gardens Phase 2. This property is adjacent to Kwanza Technopolis and only 4 minutes from the highway. This is a property whereby once you purchase it, you preserve your wealth, you build your wealth, you create your investment, create wealth for your generations. Don't miss this lifetime opportunity. Call this number right now, 0790 300 300. Optiven, inspiring possibilities. 23 years of impacting communities.
Your health is not just about going to the hospital. Your health is about prevention, it's about what you eat, it's about where you live. For this reason, the body garage show exists.
The part of the brain that deals with communication.
Called primary hypertension, which means that we don't find a reason for that.
Join me, Dr. Chepsi, every Thursday, 8 p.m.
It's in 4 minutes past the top of the hour. Welcome back. This is Morning Cafe, and once again, happy Labor Day to all the esteemed workers of this particular country. And joining me for this particular coverage all the way to around 10 a.m. for special coverage, and later on we'll be we'll be getting in touch with correspondents and our reporters on ground, both in Uhuru Gardens, where the 58th celebrations of the Labor Day will be held, and across different parts of the counties on what Kenyans will be expecting from Head of State President William Ruto, who is expected to be presiding over these particular celebrations, where we are obviously again expected to be seeing KOTU and FKE employers basically and officials in this particular event. And joining me for that conversation is governance expert Peter Mushindu. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
Uko salama?
Niko salama kabisa. The weather is a little bit chilly outside, but the roads are very clear. Kenyans have really taken time to relax at home. Normally take 1 hour to get here. That's taken me like 35 minutes.
So
no gridlock anywhere.
Meaning most Kenyans are...
Of course, now with the kids at home not going to school and quite a sizable number who are employed being given an off day, you'd expect the traffic to be a little bit smooth. Right. Even the notorious Kiambu Road was very smooth.
Previously, we've definitely seen Kenyans going to the celebrations both in Nyayo Estate and in Nyayo Estate, and actually going to these particular places and celebrating celebrations. But then I'm being informed, speaking about the whole celebrations, I'm being informed that Mike Kagongo is on standby. Mike Kagongo, very good morning to you. I trust that you're doing well this particular chilly Monday morning. What is the latest? What are Kenyans saying on these 58th Labor Day celebrations?
So much, Stanley Nyarengeta. Indeed, we can get you loud and clear from Uhuru Gardens here in Nairobi, and we are coming to you live to inform you on what's happening here since the day has started. This is Labor Day, a day to celebrate for workers across the country and indeed across the globe, just to make sure that workers have got something little to celebrate for since they became workers. And I'm not alone. I have my friend here, Flora Lemuki, whom we will be indeed analyzing on what's happening today and what is expected from President William Ruto on later basis when he is expected to come around. Flora Lemuki, welcome so much on board. It is a day to celebrate for workers indeed. I don't know, do we have something to celebrate for as workers?
Actually, good morning, Stanley, and of course to TV47's viewers, welcome to the 58th Mashujaa Day, the first that the President William Ruto will be presiding over. Remember, this is the first for the Kenya Kwanza administration. And as Kagongo would ask, do we have something to celebrate as the workers? I speak as a Kenyan, as a worker as well. So right now there are issues that many Kenyans will be looking into President William Ruto addressing, including the high cost of living, matters of unemployment and underemployment. you realize the cost of living has been going high.
And indeed, the cost of living is one of the demands Azimio la Umoja has been demanding Kenya Kwanza's government to address since it took over the government. It is a good opportunity for President William Ruto to address it today so that Azimio might be perhaps they'll be comfortable.
Yes, I think matters cost of living, it is a conversation that every other Kenyan is speaking about. Remember, this has been mostly for common commodities that every Kenyan is complaining about: the cost of unga, the cost of fuel, the cost of oil, just basic household commodities for Kenyans. The cost has been going high for the last 2 years, mostly due to the effects of COVID-19 and also the political season that has been there in the last 1 year. Remember, the previous regime tried to curb the high cost of living through introducing subsidies, but right now we have a new government and they have a way that they want to address matters high cost of living, and of course now those subsidies have been scrapped off. But as they say, some commodities, the cost of living is going down, but still the common mwananchi is still ailing.
According to data, we are told that in the past 2 years, we have experienced a very high rise or a rising high rate of unemployment in Kenya compared to the last 20 years. What do you think might have caused all this unemployment rate in Kenya?
Mostly, I think the biggest challenge that has led to unemployment and unemployment, to say, the effect of COVID-19 that hit the country since 2020. Remember, so many people are laid off. Also, there's a technological shift that right now, even in our industry itself, you can see right now people are changing to the digital world. And so if you as a person can do the videography and also you can report, you can anchor, all that. So some of these employers will now opt to have to reduce the number of people because there's you can do a lot as a person compared to having five people in the same space. And also during the COVID-19 times, there's the change of working places. The remote working now came as due to COVID-19 times. So even when the employers reduce their working spaces, now that you don't have to come to the office to work, I think that also has led to massive layoffs because now there's no need of having 5 people working from home really if one person can deliver on that, you see.
Yeah. Thank you. Stanley Nyaringita, as you can see, we right here at Uhuru Gardens, and if my camera person can pan around and show cases on what's happening, these are just Kenyans trying to jet in this early baby before the president and labor or workers unions arrives, just to make sure that they'll be speaking about it or urging the president to do something on to make sure or making sure that their working conditions will be good for them. So we are waiting for the leaders to arrive on later basis, perhaps to listen to what they'll be talking about. And just to inform you is that this will be President William Ruto's first Labor Day as the President of the Republic of Kenya. You remember the previous occasions here, he has been attending Labor Days as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Last year, the Labor Day was celebrated at Nyayo Stadium when President Uhuru Kenyatta was in the government. But today, President William Ruto will be attending his first Labor Day as the President of the Republic of Kenya. And just to mention to you is that unemployment rate in the country has risen to about 5.7 compared to an average of 2-point-something of the East African region as a whole. This is perhaps something the president will also speak about, just to make sure that unemployment rate in the country has gone down. Flora Lemuki.
Yeah, I think mostly what we expect from the president, there are key number of issues that he's likely to address, and also the court boss that is Francis Atwoli. There's the issues of salary increments among Kenyans, that is concerning the minimum wage. That is something Kenyans will be expecting them to address, because as the cost of living goes high, as well, Kenyans will need more wage. The wage bill is increasing, so that means people need more money in order to be able to afford a living. There's also the issue of workers and their constitutional rights. It's issues that keep being revised. We also expect the president perhaps to address that, and also the court boss, that is. Issues of unemployment and unemployment among Kenyans, mostly the youth, and you see the moment there are quite a number of unemployed youth, they might also lead to crime rates. So I think it's time perhaps that is addressed, and also maybe we see what technical solutions does the government have to Kenyans in order to be able to earn a living, even if not working in these official white-collar jobs. Yeah? And also there are issues of workers' health and safety. It's matters that we expect as a whole to be addressed. Quite a number of issues just surrounding the well-being of workers, because this is a Workers' Day, and as we celebrate them, and also expect them to recognize our heroes of the day. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Flora Lemuki. Indeed, Stanley Nyaringita is something that we are expecting President William Ruto to address on later basis when he arrives at this premise. And talking about security or insecurity, it's also something that Kenyans are looking forward to hear on what the president will be mentioning or will be addressing about this Labor Day. The security has been manned around here, and just making sure that people that will be attending this event will be safe and sound. We shall be taking a break shortly, but on later basis we shall be getting back just to inform you, Nyaringita, on what will be happening here at Uhuru Gardens. Back to your studio. My name is Mike Kagwango on behalf of Flora Lemuki.
Thank you for that, Mike Kagwango and Flora Lemuki at the Uhuru Gardens. And once more, both of my colleagues, happy Labor Day. And Mushendo,
yes,
picking up from what they were talking about, Kenyans would be looking up to President William Ruto to increase the salaries. Last year, it's actually exactly 1 year from now. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta had ordered the increment of the 12% minimum wage. Right now, Kenyans are expecting such kind of a language from him, the language of an increment of this, an increment of this. Right now, the cost of unga, it's unbearable to most Kenyans. Do you expect this coming from President William Ruto?
Well, I'm not sure what he's going to do. I'm waiting to see. But if you go by the last increment, it was moved from 13,000 and some hundreds to about 15,000, I think 300 and something. So an increment of about 2,000 shillings and something. But you look at before the increment last year, the last increment had been done, I think, in 2018. So that we came to I think for about a number of years after Uhuru Kenyatta was elected for the second time.
Sorry to cut you short, just the numbers. This story it's on page 4 of the Daily Nation. You can see there on the Daily Nation those particular numbers. Just to break it down, in 2017 it was 12,926. 2018, 13,572. 2019, 13,572. It remained
all
the same.
Way to 2022.
All the way to 2021, and then following former President Uhuru Kenyatta's directive, it shot to 15,201. Even as you come in and continue, many would ask, the increment of 2,000, as you put it, did it help? Bearing in mind the high cost of living, the high inflation, did it help?
I think from a point of perspective of those people who earn a little bit more, they may not see the difference. But for that, someone at the lower cluster of the grade, getting that an increment of about 2,300 is very significant in this sense that that person out of that increment can comfortably pay for the national insurance cover, NHIF, out of it.
Okay.
Can probably pay for the deductions, statutory deductions of NSSF, and part of the tax that that person is supposed to pay, like pay and what have you, those small things, would relatively have been covered with that amount. That means that the same amount has been released out of commitment in the salary. But I guess those people who earn a little bit better may not feel it. And I feel like, I have a feeling maybe the president might do an increment today, based on the fact that the inflation is just crazy, the cost of living has gone up, and probably that increment may not have been felt by Kenyans, because you'd remember it was done in May last year when the life cost of living that we are experiencing today started to flare. So I think maybe most Kenyans may not have felt that increment.
Okay.
And even if one is done today, it might pose a challenge, because you realize that government is trying so hard to source out opportunities for labor. And therefore, there are people who have not gotten an opportunity to work anywhere in any formal employment. And therefore, whether there is an increment or otherwise, it will not affect them. Because they don't have a job.
And the fact that you mentioned that also, I had promised to look at these particular numbers. You're going to help us, break it down. This is on the standard of page 6 of the standard. It breaks down from 2021 to 2022, the number of Kenyans who were employed, 17.6 in 2021 to 18.4 in 2022. Unemployed, 2.7, rose about 0.2 to 2.9. Underemployed from 1 in 2021 to 0.9. Long-term unemployed 0.64 to 0.62. Youth not in education, employment or training 3.8 in 2021, now in 2022 to 3.4. And then persons outside labor force 9.5 and increased to 9.6. Still as much as what you're talking about, these particular numbers in 2023 we'll be getting new data, but then speak on these numbers here. For example, the unemployed in 2021 was 2.7 and it increased to 2.9 in 2022.
When we talk about the labor market is normally controlled by the economic forces of supply and demand. And unfortunately in the country called Kenya, the supply is on the biggest stage, and the demand for that supply is not as vibrant as we would want to be, because how do you increase vibrancy in demand of labor market in the country? You will be able to do this based on how is your industrialization doing. You realize that our industrialization growth in the previous financial year was just 7%. That means that the job creation from the private sector is not growing as vibrant as you would want. And therefore, you have a situation where the education institutions and places that are training people, pouring a lot of job seekers into the market. When you compare it to the growth of the industries and the labor market that is supposed to uptake these people, you'll find that they are not in tandem with each other. Therefore, you will see the increase of those unemployed continuing to go high, because the rate at which the labor market is receiving clients and the rate at which the people who are supposed to uptake these clients are growing, there is a very big disparity. And therefore, if the economic growth is growing with a single digit and it's not going as fast as we would want it to be, that does not stop the fastness or the hastiness under which the institutions and schools are releasing people to the job market. And therefore, unfortunately, if as a country we do not work very quickly around the clock to ensure that we create serious opportunities in the job market, that percentage you have seen there of unemployment will continue to increase every day, because you can imagine we are releasing about between 700 and 1 million people into the job market every other year. Then compare that to the uptake. How many of those are being uptaken by either government or the private sector?
But then you don't speak about these particular numbers, the number of people being ready-made for the labor market, fresh from schools. But then, how equipped are they to actually survive in this particular labor market? Speak on the education that we do have right now. The new government has tried to restructure how the schools actually do and train the students. But then how best then should schools actually have students be ready-made for the labor market?
Now, one of the things that I think and I believe the Kenya Kwanza government is deliberately working around on the clock to do, you realize that the president has been very passionate about the technical institutions that we are building in every other constituency.
And the vocational
training. Yeah. I'll tell you, one of the things that government must seriously invest in is exporting labor to other countries. And I'll tell you, most of the job opportunities that are in other nations that Kenyans can work on are not what you call the white-collar jobs. Those are the jobs that require you to have a degree, require you to be trained and to be mastering this or have a PhD in that. There is not much of that job in the world out there. The biggest pool market of job opportunities is in technical and vocational training courses. Take, for instance, a country like Germany. Germany right now has announced they have about 7 million opportunities in the country. And out of these 7 million opportunities from a country like Germany, almost 60–70% of that is technical based opportunities. And that means that the government has to deliberately equip people. They have to deliberately incorporate Juakari into the job market so that we have Kenyans going to do opportunity. Because I'll tell you, most of these countries that are importing labor, they are not importing expertise and specialties. They are importing people who can actually manually make it possible to produce what is it that they produce. And therefore, when you realize that, if a country like Germany has 7 million opportunities, there is no reason why the government of Kenya should not sit down with the Germany ambassador and look at how much is it that we can export to Germany. How do we do it? Because one of the other problems that we are facing in this country is that our country today, the reality is that the rate at which it can absorb the labor market in the country is very slow. Based on the fact that in a number of years that have gone, we have not heavily invested in industrialization. We have not looked at the laws that govern issues that affect the industrialization, say like the power regime in the country.
Okay.
Does it favor those people who manufacture? The tax regime, is it going well? Is it sitting well with those people who want to come and invest in the country?
And speak of matters, focusing on, the manufacturers and all, key pointers on the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, and just to read them, two particular pointers. The Kenya Kwanza Manifesto on matters labor, it really wants to have all hawkers and vendors to register with KRA and be assigned ID numbers, to also have special traders zones to be created within every major town and basically city. Also seeks to have the free market and liberation for hawkers' rights and regulation, and this is where the jua kali industry comes in. I don't know so far. Taking a look at a scorecard of the Kenya Kwanza government, 8 months in, do you think the jua kali man who maybe voted for this government or did not vote, at the end of the day, he or she is still a Kenyan. They look at 8 months so far and the promises that were made back then. Are we in the right trajectory to actually have this, the jua kali artisans, the vendors, the hawkers actually included in this?
Well, what you must understand about the Kenyan labor market is that if any government comes to power, they cannot just come and start making implementation that will be felt immediately.
Okay.
There are a set of things that they will need to do to be able to achieve what is it that they have promised Kenyans. I'll give you an example in Kenya. One of the starting points for the ministry or the State Department for labor, it is what does our labor laws say about labor in the country? How is labor market governed in the country? In this case, the government of Uhuru Kenyatta for 10 years didn't see the need to amend the labor laws in the country. I will tell you, the set of labor laws we are using today were authored and amended in 2016 under the leadership of the then Labor Minister Newton Kurudu. So 16 years, it means that our labor laws are not yet consistent with the new constitution that we passed in 2010. And therefore, for the sound labor market that is well governed, there has to be a paradigm shift from laws that were passed before the constitution. As a country, we have to pass labor laws that are consistent with our supreme document today. And I think that is one of the milestones with the Kenya Kwanza government. There is already existing a cabinet paper that is drafting a bill to amend the labor laws that, as I have told you, were amended 16 years ago.
But then it's one thing to pass a bill and have it, assented into law, and it's another thing to actually implement this particular law. Still on the whole, even the manifesto, as you say, it will 8 months might be a short time to actually have the government come in and actually implement some of these things. But then how do we now the steps to actually have to actually say that yes, we are on the right trajectory? How do we ensure that if such a bill is into law,
but the point is if you look majorly at the institutions that are supposed to govern the labor market in Kenya, those institutions are involved are like the National Industrial Training Institute, the National Employment Authority. It's NEA, National Employment Authority. These are institutions that are supposed to govern the labor regulations and the labor market in Kenya. They are based on those laws I have told you were done 16 years ago. And they need to be embedded. Today, the reason why we are having rogue recruiters in the country is because our labor laws are not punitive enough to punish those people who are taking advantage of desperate Kenyans who are going to seek jobs outside the country. You have seen this government, and it's very important to give credit where it's due. Since the Kenya Kwanza government took over, they have deregistered over 300 agencies that are unscrupulously conning Kenyans. We have established a network of rogue agents in places like Riyadh in Saudi Arabia who are conning Kenyans, and you'll hear Kenyans, they have gone there, they are returning, having been killed and all those things. And therefore, everything that this government does, or any institution that is involved in the labor market will have to do, it will have to be governed by a set of laws. So you may want to go around it and everything. There are those measures that the government will take that will not need to wait for the law to be passed, like increasing the minimum wages. That is the prerogative of the president and his cabinet to do that. And there are issues like dealing with people who do not take care of their employees and all those they are provided for in the penal codes. But there are issues like right now, when we are saying we want to stream the job market, because one of the biggest avenue the government will be able to off-road the job market, off-road those people who are already in the job market seeking, it is exporting labor to other countries. That also means that the labor immigration rules must be changed. And for that matter, the Kenya Kwanza government is introducing a bill that will amend the immigration labor laws that will govern how do we export. In fact, I believe the reason why that bill is not yet in parliament is they are amending it they are amending the section that is dealing with the health sector in terms of exporting labor.
Right.
And therefore, this government, in those 8 months, they have been able to get a milestone, because labor, mostly it's a service. It's more of a service thing. The labor ministry does not really get to be in charge of things like agriculture and all those things, production. This is about giving service. And most of the time as Kenyans, we may want to see the State Department of Labor in action. But actually, as a matter of fact, the State Department of Labor is in action because, one, they have been able to initiate quite a number of cabinet papers that will actually result into amendment of the labor laws that we have in the country, so that we can protect our people. You have the government of Saudi Arabia saying they have like 130,000 opportunities that they can give to this country. You have a country like, already the government is speaking to a country like Canada, a country like Australia, where we need to export our labor, because I'll tell you, in terms of manual and vocational and tertiary technical trainings, this country has enough talent that can go out there and shine. But we have to regulate the labor laws so that when you are actually sitting down with the nations that want you to export labor to their country, you are able to negotiate based on the laws, the set of laws that are in the country. Today, I will tell you confidently, the labor laws that we have in the country, even if the government wanted to negotiate on behalf of Kenyans to go and work for either government or private entities outside there, the law is not really protecting that Kenyan worker when he's out there. And therefore, before you can start exploring exporting labor to other markets, you need to look at the laws that are governing this particular field. That are they sound enough? If we send Kenyans outside the country, are they protected by the law? Are they being paid fairly for the better service that they provide to those people? And therefore, that is the starting point. And you cannot say that we were where we are, because today we had about 900 registered agencies who are exporting or giving labor within Kenya that do not observe the basic labor laws in the world. Those are parameters that are set by the United Nations, that this is the lowest you can go. So it has to start there, other law.
Let me ask you this though, your scorecard, according to you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the 8 months so far on upscaling the labor?
Yes, I would think it will be unfair to let the government on the scorecard, because the bigger and the better scorecard to rate the Kenya Kwanza government would be when this set of laws get passed, because very soon they are fighting them, can serve in Bunge, how quickly and how efficiently are they going to implement those laws? Because right now, you know, getting a bill to go to parliament, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of input. You have to speak with the nations that you intend to export labor to. You have to understand what are their parameters in their country, so that when you're developing your law to govern labor immigration rules, it has to be in conjunction with the kind of laws that are in that country, so that you can protect. So I think the best way, in terms of letting the Kenya Kwanza government, when it comes to labor, I think they are done well, because if we have been in 10 years where we did not amend a single labor law under the government of Uhuru Kenyatta, then I think if we are talking about 8 months and we already have 3 bills within the Ministry of Labor that are being prepared to come to Parliament, then I think they are moving with earnest and with good speed.
But then, Michelle, someone would be listening to you this morning and they'd be hearing you use words like done well, but then right now there has been, and we actually with you think last week discussing matters the county's cash crunch, and there's actually a question here on 22047 SMS number, someone asking the ripple effect if the president increases the minimum wage bill, and this again speaks on matters, the KRA, the taxman and his obligation, and how President William Ruto had actually directed that the taxman to collect 3 trillion Kenyan shillings the next financial year. At this point, can you still be using words like done well with the looming economic turmoil, civil servants saying we haven't been paid huge sums of our salaries for like 3 months now, since for the first time since independence. Legislators also haven't were not paid the much salaries.
But when I say today we are speaking in as far as the labor matters are concerned.
Okay.
Because if we want to speak in a general and in a holistic manner in terms of the economy of the country, then there are challenges that the government is facing. And the biggest part of it is not their own making. But because today we are talking about what is the Labor State Department for Labor doing? Are they working toward fulfilling what the Kenya Kwanza manifesto is saying? If that is what we are talking about, then true. Because if they have already prepared a number of bills that would amend the labor laws. And I have told you, give credit to them, because when the Jubilee government came to power, the Jubilee coalition came to power in 2013, and again the Jubilee government did 2017, 2022, in the 10 years, they have not seen the need to amend any single law in the country. And therefore, when you are talking about Kenya Kwanza having done a number of bills within the 6-7 months they have been in power, then it is a plus, because if we are comparing it with the government that was there, the last amendment of the labor laws was under Moi Kibaki. And that means that this government is doing something. Now, when you are talking about things like civil service not being paid, I think I have to commend the president for refusing the temptations to actually break the law. Unlike his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, who in 2021-2022 budget went against Section 15, I think 2B of Public Management, PFM, that is Public Finance Management Act. He went against it, which prohibits government from borrowing money to fund recurrency expenditure. And actually, unfortunately so, he went to a bank that is related to him and borrowed 162 billion. We are paying an interest on local concession and loans to a tune of about 100 billion plus every month, because of the reckless borrowing that the government of Uhuru Kenyatta in the wee hours of its government, the last few financial years, have borrowed money against the Public Finance Management Act. And therefore, when the president is hit by the cash crunch, he has refused categorically to borrow money against the laws that we have given to ourselves, and said, look, let's wait a little bit for the taxman to get enough money, because you understand that all the money that is collected in terms of tax goes to consolidated fund.
Yeah.
And one of the first responsibilities out of that account is our loans and consortium, international, local consortiums.
Yeah.
And therefore, in terms of paying salaries, it comes secondary to the mature loans that we have already taken and starting to pay. And when you talk about the Kenyans feeling it, until the government is completely able to turn around the cost of living and lower the cost of living, which they continue to do every day, because you realize that they have been able to give fertilizers and farmers have planted. If you are coming from North Rift, you will see shambas, trucks and trucks of maize. That
but then is it translated? Because you
see at the end of the day, you see at the end of the day,
yeah.
It is this idea by Kenyans that thinking these things are magical. They are not magical. If you plant mahindi today, it will take you at least 4 or 5 months for them to become ripe for use. And therefore, what you have to commend the government, and this is a vacation of what the previous administration was doing. The previous administration was moving forward and pushing forward a problem. They were not solving it. If there is a crunch of oil cost in the world, what the government of Uhuru Kenyatta would do was give subsidy. If there is a problem with our production, what our government would do is get subsidy. I mean, that was their solution throughout. And I will tell you, the reason why we are here today and the cost of living is high, and I'll give you, the basic stable food for Kenyans is maize, that is ugari, is majorly the stable food. That's why unasikia the denominator when it comes to the cost of living is unga. And unga is a product of maize. And I'll tell you, every time this country has done its maximum maize production, there is always a deficit of about 720,000 metric tons that the government needs to go out there and purchase and put it in NCPB to be able to meet the need of Kenyans in terms of maize required to produce both ugari and food for our animals. Now, we have had quite a number of seasons in the previous government that the weather has not been kind to us.
Yeah.
And that is not the doing of the previous government. But the previous government had a responsibility of realizing that when the weatherman has said the weather pattern is going to be bad, they needed to go out there and buy maize when it was available, fill it in the National Cereals Board storages, so that when we are hit by the crunch for maize today, they would have sold that maize to millers at a lower cost, and therefore maintaining the cost of unga at a place where every Kenyan could afford. But now, in comes the government of Kenya Kwanza, of William Ruto, and one, they find that there is no harvesting in their fields, and number two, there is no storage in NCPB. Therefore, if you want to blame anybody for the lack of proper management on how to deal with the cost of living, then that falls squarely on the previous outgone government, because if we did not have maize in the field, it also means that we should have had maize at NCPB that would have been offloaded to millers at a lower cost, and therefore it would have maintained the cost of unga. So when we are here today, the Kenyan worker may not feel like government is doing something, because the cost of living is still very high. The inflation is just crazy.
Yeah.
And even today, if the president is kind enough to increase the minimum wage, Kenyans may not feel it, because we have tailored and tuned Kenya into a country of short-term solutions. That they have been tailored this by the previous government, that because the previous government did not want to get blamed. If the market, crude oil market is high, the president will give subsidy, by the way, which are not part of the budget. If there is a crunch of maize, The president calls the millers and gives them subsidy. And therefore, Kenyans have been tuned into short-term solutions. And therefore, when the government of Kenya Kwanza has come, it has opted to, yes, we will know they will receive a beating, another beating from Kenyans, but they are looking for what is called the long-term solutions to our problem. Because the long-term solutions to the cost of living is to have Kenyans plant, get enough maize to NCPB. The rains are there. When you have enough maize to NCPB, the cost of hunger goes down. And again, that will now translate into the cost of maintaining a family to that common Kenyan lowering. So, majorly, you will not say that Kenyans will feel as if the government is doing something. But what I understand, and I have gone through the Kenya Kwanza thing, is that they have been able to look ahead and see how to do a long-term solution both to our labor market and to the economy. So,
and speak of matters, long-term, and how the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, as you put it, looking for posterity measures. One key issue here that pops up is the Hustler Fund.
Yes.
And, it seeks to solve, and focus on the SMEs, even as, the president during his campaign, calling SMEs the hustlers. So far, according to you, still on, its scorecard, will you say that, the Hustler Fund has really, come in and really chipped in to help SMEs really, upscale?
I think there has always been a deliberate attempt by those who do not believe in Kenya Kwanza government to portray Hustler Fund as a failure. But I'll tell you this, the Hustler Fund, was basically built to deal with the lowest person at the cluster. And I'll tell you today, if you go to your WhatsApp messages and all your texts and see those people who are asking you for help, they are not asking you for 10,000. They are not asking you for 20, 30,000. The basic Kenyan who will come to my inbox or my WhatsApp is seeking for a small loan to get out of a jam of 2,000, of 3,000, or 5,000. And that Hustler Fund was meant for that particular person, that he does not have to lower his dignity to come and ask you for 2,000, and he can get it and pay it with an extra of a few coins at the comfort of his phone. And these are the people. I'll give you an example. I go to my Mutura guy in Kikuyu town, hapo kwa stage, ama Limuru town pale karibu na stage ya 115, hapo tu opposite. Okay. Is a guys who does Mutura. That guy, to be able to come and do that Mutura requires a capital of about 2,000, 2,500. He will go to the Gureti market in the morning where fresh meat is being done and buy meat, come prepare it at home, and then bring it in the evening to roast it there and sell. That person is the person that was being targeted by the first tier of the Hustler Fund, because the Hustler Fund was going to address 3 types of people. Now we are moving from that first tier to now to groups that are starting small businesses of SACCOs, 300, 500,000. That's the stage we are now, and then we will now go to the bigger stage of these SACCOs growing and getting more money. But there are people who have decided that Hustler Fund, and unfortunately this is the mystery, the people who actually get to discuss the Hustler Fund and its negativity are the medium level people who do not have the needs to go and ask that money from the Hustler Fund. And it is ironical, people who do not need it continue to castigate it. There are people who need this Hustler Fund. People have called it names, compared it with those things in M-Pesa and all those freezer and all those things. But the bottom, the bottom issue is that Kenyans are accessing it. Those who need those small money, they were the target of the Hustler Fund. We are now moving to SMEs and SACCOs, and it's going to roll out. So I think for me, I would rate Hustler Fund as one of the things that has been able to revolutionize how we borrow money. and everything has a challenge.
If today President William Ruto talks about the Hustler Fund and how to revamp the Hustler Fund today, what should he be talking about? You know, this coming on the whole backdrop of a whole financial crisis, the country, him being on a hanging on the balance and walking a tightrope of ensuring that he limits the borrowing and actually have more on cap on the whole spending and all that.
One of the successful thing about Hustler Fund, it is a revolving fund, and therefore, at any given time, quite a number of few billions of Kenya shillings that would, however, not been available in the market is circulating in the market. And as long as there is money circulating in the market, there is that interesting thing about having money circulating in the market. The economy is very friendly and it looks so jubilous that money is exchanging hands. And therefore, if you look, have you ever looked at our country when civil servants are not paid, like the last time they were not paid? There was almost a crunch of money, because I will tell you, if a civil servant is paid, he's able to pay that gardener to do the gardening. He's able to go and buy the kids a new shoe. That means that shoe person is getting money. He will be able to run to the company that is producing and that one. So one of the things the Hustler Fund has provided for the market, it is that presence of those billions of shillings that are circulating with the market. Yeah. And therefore, I think for me is that maybe it was not felt as the government would have wanted it to be felt. But I believe that this government is still keen on ensuring that the Hustler Fund becomes a very successful story, especially now that we are hitting the SMEs, where we have serious money going to small innovations and what have you. So this is what I think, that we are only 7 months. And in fact, the first serious fruits of both Kibaki and Uhuru government were felt differently. I'll give you. When Kibaki became the president, we were still in the old constitution, because I've seen people compare the performance of Mwai Kibaki and that of William Ruto. You ask yourself, we elected Mwai Kibaki at the December of 2002, and the January of 2003, the free primary education, as they would call it, had started rolling. Yeah. It is because the previous constitution had given the head of state a lot of leeways. The budget making process was not governed the way it is governed today, because then there was no, you know, today you have to bring budget policies, statements, and all those. There is a very big process. Actually, the process of making budget started way back, I think, in February or in January. So you cannot compare the government of today and the government of Mwai Kibaki. At what point did we start getting the fruits of the Jubilee Coalition government which came to power in 2013? It is in the late 2014 we will start to see projects start to machinate here and there. That means that government took quite a number of months, if not a year plus, to be able to roll out its program. We are still at the very early stage. The government of His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta did not start with the issues the now oppositions are bringing into this government. There is a very different dynamics that are surrounding the way the government of today is working vis-a-vis what the other governments have done. And the only thing we can request Kenyans to do is let us allow the government, because as long as the government has shown the goodwill, we can only give it time to be able to deliver. Because this is a contrast, you heard me talk about the county government. Yeah. It is about showing goodwill. Is the government showing you goodwill to do what they said they will do? I believe the national government is showing goodwill by preparing these rebel laws that are going to come to parliament, by the gesturing agents that are stealing and conning Kenyans. It is showing goodwill. As long as the government is showing you goodwill, we can only give it time to set the ball rolling and see what is it that they will do. So I think as much as Kenyans may not really say they feel what the government is doing, the government is showing us that there is goodwill to change how things are done.
Do we as a country have a fiscal discipline? You know, you mentioned your Mutura, guy in his capital, about 2,000. And speaks of even as SMEs try to borrow the whole hustler fund. Do we as a country have the fiscal discipline of and the knowledge of knowing that if my capital is about 2,000, this is what I should be spending on and all that?
I think that's a challenge for the country, and I'll tell you, if the government itself, like the previous government, has not had a fiscal discipline in terms of how they borrow and how they spend what they have borrowed, how much more do you expect the common Kenyans to be? Because I will tell you, if the government does not take the initiative of educating Kenyans in terms of those Kenyans who are doing farming in whatever nature, be it pig or poultry or farming, those Kenyans who are doing marimari, those Kenyans who are selling mutura and everything, it is the responsibility of the government to continue training Kenyans on two things. One, our saving culture is almost non-existent. Number two, how we use the proceeds of what we get out of business is another challenge. You see, when the government of Mwai Kibaki and the Prime Minister started Kazi kwa Vijana, if you remember, just right about then, the Honorable President of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, started an innovation, an ICT innovation hub, probably almost or less the same amount that the Kenya government put in Kazi kwa Vijana. The money we put to Kazi kwa Vijana, we cannot see it. It is gone. It did not help anybody because they never introduced a saving culture that was geared to help those who are involved in that program. But in Rwanda, the president comes up with a fund that is going to fund innovation. They would invite you if you have a tech idea that is burning in your head. They would invite expertise who will look at, they partnered with guys from Silicon Valley to see whether that tech idea you have is applicable. If it is, they would give you financing under two conditions. One, you would have to repay that money. And number two, you would have to train people and expand that knowledge to other people. And that is meaning that they were giving you a zero interest free funding that is not heavily regulated like this country. And that has resulted in companies like Huawei setting shop in Rwanda, and their African market is being fed, they are assembling their gadgets there. So if you have a Huawei phone today, it is being assembled here in Africa. It has paid off. You look at the average age of the cabinet in a country like Rwanda, because youths have been embraced and the government has introduced one, available funds to fund innovations. Number two, the government has intentionally decided to train the youth of Rwanda on investment. And therefore, when they put their money on small things that they do, they are able to save and they are able to expand their ideas. So therefore, it is the challenge of the Kenya Kwanza government to number one, and I look forward to the CS Ababu Namwamba achieving this. Let's have innovation hubs in the country. And number two, as we are doing innovations, let's also have the Ministry of Finance and other related state departments train Kenyans on investment and on how to spend their money. So I think the country must treat in terms of physical discipline, in terms of how they manage their budget. And number two, they must also pass that knowledge to Kenyans so that Kenyans do not continue to do business as usual. Because you imagine if the government is not having a physical discipline, you think the leaders there are a reflection of who we are as a country. And therefore, it is a challenge to this Kenya Kwanza government, which I believe they will take up and do give innovation. The way they have availed the Hustler Fund to the smaller enterprise, we may also have a fund that is geared to fund innovation. because innovation, it is the only way that we will move this country forward.
Right. Hold that thought there. Keep talking to us on our social media platforms, 22047 on SMSs, TV47 News on Twitter, TV47 KE on Facebook, Nyarungita _ discussing matters.
Wakati mwingine kama weekend, mimi najiachilia.
Hata ukumbuki hii story.
Nikifika watu wangu watu wakinipokea na kupokeleka.
Umeset the mood.
Nimeset the mood. Naweza kupokeleka. Nikitumai kwamba mzima popote pale ulipo, nikikukaribisha katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi. Jina langu Elizabeth Mutuku. Katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi tunakupa nafasi kutangamana nao kila siku ya Alhamisi kuanzia saa 1:30 kuendelea. Siku nyingine tutapatana papa hapa umjue kiongozi mwingine.
Jiunge nasi toka hapa hadi ufuoni mwa bahari. Meli yetu itakapotua nanga kwa uhondo ribo ya riwaya hii Mwisho wa Kosa. Monica.
It's early morning in Maralal. Start your morning informed, educated, entertained, and above all, know your country. From the beautiful plains of Samburu County to the skyscrapers of Nairobi, Morning Cafe certainly got you covered. Indeed, a beautiful place to watch and certainly a moment of understanding and knowing your country. Indeed, to the remotest parts of every county. Join me, Linda Alela, every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
The diversity of Kenya's wildlife has garnered international fame.
This is pellets that we give to the tourists, the giraffes. We ration because we don't want the giraffes to eat too much of this. We want them to have more of the natural browse.
We may not always get the opportunity to go out to see the wildlife, but you'll never miss the opportunity to see it from the comfort of your couch.
This is home to animals that have been found out there either injured, abandoned, or confiscated from people who are holding them illegally.
Only on TV47 Wildlife, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
Disability is a club that anyone can join.
I live with special needs. It means I have a limitation. There are things I can't be able to do personally myself.
And in our journey to talk about disability, we tell the stories of those with disabilities and even sit with specialists to understand what it means for those affected directly and indirectly.
Everybody's life, mine has also been faced with ups and downs.
If it becomes a self-stigmatized thing where you feel like you are judging yourself too harsh, you blame yourself, and you perceive that it happened because you failed.
Join me, Zainab Mohammed, on Beyond the Limit every Saturday at 7:30 p.m.
An entrepreneur is defined as someone who has the ability and desire to establish, administer, and succeed in a startup venture along with the risks entitled to it to make profits.
I'm a professional financier with a professional paper in banking. However, for fashion, it's something I've always loved ever since I was small.
Started as a baby business. It was all about, you have your machines, the haircuts, wear the heads, bring the scalps.
We wanted something that would remind us about prayer every now and then. So the moment you mention Talit, we always think about prayer because Talit Cakes is founded on prayer.
Get to learn more about these entrepreneurs and what makes them stand out in their field.
At 7 minutes past the top of the hour, this is Morning Cafe, and we're discussing matters, in the labor market in the country. Mushendo, I believe it was on Friday.
Yes.
There was National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula. Though in State House, and did see the whole assent of the Division of Revenue Bill, that is 2023. And to just take a look at this, the county equitable share has now increased by 15.4 billion Kenyan shillings, leading to counties to receive 385 to 4.4 billion shillings in the 2023-2024 financial year, as compared to the current 370 billion shillings. So the Division of Revenue Bill 2023 is meant to provide for the equitable division of revenue raised nationally between national and county governments for the financial year 2023-2024. This is pursuant to Articles 203, Top 2 and 218 of the Constitution. Still on matters the whole cash crunch. And national, workers, public workers and, county workers, they're listening this particular morning. They're waiting for the president to address. Is this good news? The increase of this particular matter.
Yes, when you have counties getting an increase, it is welcome. Still, not enough money is still being sent to the counties. And I always say this because I'm one person who is very passionate about devolution.
Yeah.
One of the counties that are adversely affected by the very early introduction devolution are counties like Nairobi, Kiambu, Kakamega. You find that we have if you go to the schedules, you will see how much has been devolved, how many functions have been devolved to counties. But what would surprise you, for instance, health is a devolved function to the county government.
Yeah.
The only hospitals are left under responsibility of the national government are the level 6, and these are referral hospitals. You'll have hospitals like Kenyatta National Hospital, Moi Referral and Teaching Hospital in Eldoret, hospitals like Kenyatta University Hospital, hospitals like Othaya Level 6 Hospital. These are the hospitals that are left at the preview of national government. But when we formed Devolution in 2013, and these functions were devolved, the Ministry of National Government in charge of health did not devolve the fund that were paying those officers that have now been seconded to counties. You have public health, you have community health workers system, you have doctors who are devolved to counties. They are the responsibilities of county governments, but the government never devolved the funds to actually pay for the salaries, pay for the management of these seconded employees from national government to county government. And that poses a challenge. In Kiambu, for instance, you will find that the Department of Health will probably have a budget of like 5 billion shillings. And almost 4 billion of that money is going to pay salaries and run the department. That is unacceptable in terms of how much money we are spending on the currency expenditure and how much money we are putting into developing our health systems. And that poses challenges for counties, because when they get to spend so much money paying recurrency expenditures in terms of salary and learning of those departments, it means that the growth of our health sector will not grow as we would want it to do that. And therefore, if the government is going to make sure devolution works, it is devolving funds that are supposed to pay these people. I will invite you to go and look at what was the budget of the Ministry of Health National Government in 2012-2013 financial year, vis-a-vis what is the budget of the Ministry of Health in the financial year 2022-2023. You'll be surprised that in 2013, the Ministry of Health devolved almost 70% of the responsibilities to county, but 10 plus years later, the budget for the ministry, national government, Ministry of Health has increased with almost over 50%. They have smaller responsibilities, but a bigger budget. It does not make sense because if the counties are in charge of level 5 hospitals, level 4, level 3 and others, they need to get those funds to be able to do what is it. And therefore, while we welcome the 15 billion shillings increase, we are cognizant to the fact that it is not even nearing enough, because you will find that some departments in the counties are, despite getting those money, they have challenges paying their workers. And therefore, you will find like all the contracted and casual workers in counties are in total disarray because some of them are even going to 5-6 months without salary. At times, we may want to blame counties, but this is not the making of the county governments. It is the making of how our funds are being disseminated by the national government. Number two, when you look at the what do you call it, the revenue allocation formula for division, after the division of revenue bill is signed into law, it means now the government can now, the controller of budget can now allocate money to counties. Then it comes to the, what we call now the national allocation formula. The formula is disadvantaged to the most populous county because the first money that is set aside when that money is being distributed to county, they will first of all take some money percentage and put it in what is called the county equalization fund. And then they will take some other money and put it in something called conditional grant, mostly given to hospitals, specifically level 5 hospitals in counties. And then what is left is now equally distributed to counties. After that equal distribution is done, they now go back to the equalization fund, and you will hear that in the equalization fund, a county like Turkana has received 4 billion out of the equalization fund. And you find that that county is now receiving 14 billion, and it is a county that has about 600,000 people at most, when a county like Kiambu, which is having a population of 2.8 million now, is receiving 6-7 billion lower than what Turkana is receiving. And it does not make sense. As much as we would want to have an equitable share of all the counties, we must be cognizant to the fact that when the government is serving, government does not serve service areas, it serves people. And therefore, resources must be distributed in accordance to the populations and where the populations are big. If you compare Nairobi, Kiambu, and Kakamega, which are the most populous counties in the country, and the distribution or the share they get out of this money that has been allocated to county, you will see that there is absolutely no fairness in terms of the formula that we use. And until we can get a formula that is able to serve people in accordance with their population, we will have a problem. Because if you come to Kiambu, with 2.8 million people, you need bigger and more health facilities to serve these people. And counties may not be able to achieve this if they do not get a good share. And then there is also the issue of how much is a county contributing to the GDP of the country. You will find that we are giving so much to national government, but on the reverse, we are receiving very few coins, and it does not make sense.
And on that, let's put matters funds aside and talk about the devolution in matters, labor. In counties, even as you put it, some counties do have a higher population, but then you'll find, even as someone who's seeking internship or a job in a particular county, maybe, let's say, for example, they're in, let's say, Turkana or Tharaka-Nithi, they'd be seeking employment all the way in Nairobi. Do counties, devolved units allow for, labor and upscaling of labor within the devolved units?
The biggest challenge for the county government is that the kind of responsibilities the county government has been given is very immense. It's a big responsibility. And they would require a bigger labor force to be able to do it. But then there is the challenge of funds. How much money? You know, basically, you are not supposed to use more than, I think, 30% of, I don't know whether it's 30% or thereabout, of your entire budget on the currency. It should not go beyond there. But you're finding most counties have not been able to live within that mark. They are having the labor cost. If you look at the reports by the Auditor General, you will find that the labor cost is beyond what they are supposed to actually use. And even then, counties do not have enough people to work in that county. For instance, I go back to Kiambu probably has about 8,000 to 10,000 employees. If you are to look at that number vis-a-vis the population that is in Kiambu, that number is not so much outside the limits that a county with such a population should have people serving it. But then, when you look at the money that they have, you will find probably that number is bigger than what they need to do. It is surpassing what is put as a limit, because that money becomes a problem. And therefore, when we are talking about provision of labor from counties, it is something that is very difficult. The uptake of counties in terms of getting labor is a challenge, because you know today as a government institution, because county are government institution, you have to provide, if you want to employ, say so and so and so and so, you have to give justification to the Public Service Commission and also provide that there is a budget for that matter. And right now, counties do not have those budgets. So there are counties that really have opportunities that Kenyans may be able to serve who have the qualifications and the expertise. But counties are unable to do that because they do not have provision to be able to pay those salaries. Because you know, when you employ someone like that, you have to show how you will be able to pay him, where you will get his gratuity or his pension and all those things. Because it's not a one-time thing, it is a long-term commitment to an employee. And when you cannot be able to justify that with the Public Service Commission, because today if you're employed in government, you get what is called a PF number. That PF number does not originate from the county. In this country, the PF numbers are preserved of the Public Service Commission. And therefore, before they give you that PF number to be able to employ someone, you have to show that you have the capacity and you have the ability to pay that person. Most counties do not have that ability today. And therefore, there are counties that are surviving without key personnel because they don't have enough money. And that also then means...
The question arises, sorry to cut you short, do counties now focus on, do they now look at, let's say for example, it's Kiambu County, do they look at, so who in Kiambu County is best fit to do a particular job in this position, or they look countrywide, who can actually fill it? And this raises, remember late last year, there were some counties which was saying, some of the leaders were saying, no, if you're not from this particular county, we won't be looking at, we won't be giving you the high positions. We won't be giving you the lucrative kind of positions. So we will only focus on people from this particular county.
I think number one, anybody propagating that kind of a notion is someone who do not understand the law. The law is very clear that 30% of formal employment in a county government has to come without the county. It has to come outside the county. That is what the law expects. So there is a provision of 30%. One of the reasons that provision is there is because of integration. You cannot close your county like it's an island. It is part of a Republic of Kenya. And the reason why the drafters saw it like to cut point at 30% is that someone from Kisii can come and work in Kiambu, someone from Kiambu can go to Mombasa and be able to integrate this country so that we do not create marginalized counties or small entities. So
and actually bringing up new ideas.
Yes, and ideas and everything. During like the time of William Kabogo in Kiambu, the finance minister was from, I think, Machakos. You will find the Waziri for administration was not from Kiambu County. You will find a number, the chief of staff was not from Kiambu County, because Kiambu County is a cosmopolitan county. You have to integrate everybody. You look at wards like Kahawa here, they are electing people from Nyanza as their MCA in Kiambu County Assembly. And therefore, one of the things that any governor propagating that, or any county leader, CEO propagating that, he's actually propagating hate and dividing Kenyans, because if you must, you know, there is the Council of Governors. If there are your people that must be given job in Kiambu, go discuss with the governor of Kilifi. Have people of Kiambu go work in Kilifi, and people of Kilifi come to work in Murang'a, and people of Murang'a come to work in Kiambu, or whichever the vice versa.
And have a benchmark.
And have a benchmark and everything. So anybody propagating otherwise, I will definitely tell you that is not in the preamble of the law or in the spirit of the law. It is against it. Yeah. And number two, as much as counties are stuffed of money to give formal employment, it also calls for the governor to become creative, because we have so much talent within counties that have not been tapped. If you cannot be able to provide money for what is called recurrency expenditure, as a governor, if you know what you are doing and if you understand why you are elected, you become an innovative person. You can create a tech fund or an innovation fund, because this is not recurrency expenditure. This is money that is geared toward investment of some kind. Say, like in the county of Nyandarua, for instance, where they are the #1 producers of potatoes and what have you, can Governor Badrisha come up with a tech hub that would help youths in Nyandarua or in Kenya who can be able to come with technologies of prolonging the life of the potatoes after they are harvested? How do you package potatoes and get them value addition? Invest in that line as a county, because your strong point is there. Here in Kiambu, we have coffee, we have milk, we have we have what do you call it? We have tea leaves. Why don't we have what we call the agricultural aggregated institutions that are doing value additions, and young people, we invest money where young people can come and bring their tech or ideas of doing this better. We are able to now export our milk in other countries through maybe coming up with applications that are allowing international shoppers to shop for milk. We have a milk crunch in countries like DRC. They need milk. It is here in Kiambu.
And speaking of the creativity of a governor, even remember last time we were talking about matters of devolution as we were wrapping up the show. And I think 2 weeks ago, some CECs had quit in Kiambu, County. And this was picking largely on the leadership of a particular county of a devolved unit, where members of the county assembly would say that a particular governor is a one-man show. We saw this in Meru, and this actually really had a ripple effect on the labor in that particular county. Actually derailed the labor workforce in that particular county. How do we move forward from this?
I think
even in Kiambu.
You see in Kiambu, where I come from, we really have a problem. And I would say it's a problem because we can no longer hide our head in the sand and say there is no problem. We are today speaking about labor, and the governor has so many opportunities that are mandatory to be filled within the county that he has deliberately refused to fill. As I sit here today with you, the Kiambu County Public Service Board does not have a secretary, who is also the CEO of the board. He has left the board so many months ago. That position has never been advertised. It is a labor opportunity for a qualified Kenyan. The governor continues to refuse to fill that on. That board does not have a vice chairman. That board has an extra slot of one board member who passed on last year. Those places, they are very lucrative positions in government that ought to earn qualified Kenyans some money and build their lives. But the governor has refused to fill them. Subsequently, it is very possible for anybody to go to court or in a labor court and question decisions made by that board because it is not properly constituted. And if you cannot avail opportunities that are already mandatory to Kenyans, then you have a problem. Come to his office. Every governor that is elected in Kenya has about, if not so, 13 direct appointments, where, as a governor, when you come to power, you have been given an opportunity to appoint a personal assistant. You've been given an opportunity to appoint a chief of staff, to get your 2 executive secretaries. You get director of liaison, director of protocol. You get agricultural, legal, and financial advisors in your government. These are senior positions that are also earning very good money for Kenyan. In Kiambu, since the governor was sworn in last year in, I think, end of August, he has refused to appoint people into these positions. He has not given position. We are talking about labor today, and we are talking about scarcity of opportunities for Kenyans to work. Yeah. But those opportunities that are provided legally by law, that the governor does not need to consult the Public Service Board. He only needs to say that I am appointing so-and-so, and tender the names to the public service for formal appointment. Those are things he has refused to do. We have advertised for positions of chief of officers in the various departments. I think we have re-advertised and shortlisted that like 5 times. These are opportunities, again, that are supposed to be given to Kenyans to work. He is in the business of renewing the contract of chief officers every month, which is totally against the labor laws in this country. And therefore, if all the counties were to operate like that, we will be operating like a banana republic. And when you see that our MCAs shouting, it is because there is a problem. As I talk today, we have a county assembly of 86 members. 62 members as of Friday had signed an impeachment motion of the governor of Kiambu. And the issues they are talking about, and they are very serious issues. Kiambu, we have a budget of 17-point-something billion. About 10 billion of that money is recurrency expenditure, and 6 billion point something is going to development and infrastructure development. Now, the uptake of that development budget today in Kiambu is only 7%. We are in the month of May today. I've seen the governor do some advertisement of a contract here and there. Right. Now, if you follow the, the Public Procurement and Disposal Act process, there is going to be a whole month before something is advertised. Tenders are returned, they are opened, they are committed to what is called evaluation, and eventually awarded. It is a full month. By the time that process the governor is attempting to do today is done, we will now be closing down our accounts, if miss, in readiness for the next financial year. That practically means that it is eminent today that over 2.5 billion shillings meant for development in Kiambu will go back to the exchequer. In a county of 2.8 million people with a lot of problems with hospitals that do not have drugs, hospitals that do not have the relevant workforce. We are in need of nurses. We are in need of clinic officers. We are in need of specialists. But the governor has refused to see that. And therefore, it cannot be that we are talking about labor opportunities and we have CEOs of counties, because the County Government of Act of 2012 envisions the governor as the chief executive officer of the county. We have CEOs with opportunities that are supposed to be given to Kenyans and they are refusing to give them. It is a shame that Kenyans who are qualified, Kenyans who have gone to school, Kenyans with those experience have applied for those jobs, and somebody is mark timing for almost a whole year without giving opportunity.
Because of time, Shindu, let's wrap up with matters, the labor code, because it's quite pertinent. Employers deported in the informal settlements, the cases are still pending years later in the labor court. As you wrap up briefly, what do you make of the labor court in the country? Is it losing its grip with the country?
I think one of the things that I expect to change how it operates as the labor court in this sense. When the president came to power, he promised to be able to give the judiciary, the judicial fund, to be able to implement some of the visions contained in their, what do you call it, not their manifesto, in their ideas of shaping the judiciary. And therefore, I hope that the judiciary is going to empower the labor court, number one, give them enough judges and resources to dispense with the matter, because some of these matters do not require a lot of time. Some of them do not actually require the actual judgment. They require people to sit and have mediation. So the labor court must be given the full accolades and be able to operate. Today it is seen as it is not seen as a senior court that is supposed to adjudicate on very serious matters. It must have its levels elevated to be able to deal with these problems, given personnel and resources.
Your last words, Mshindo.
I think I would want to wish every Kenya good Labor Day. I know maybe you have not felt the government, but I have said the reason why we support government is when it shows the interest to change things. This government of President William Ruto is showing that it is willing to change the way things are done in the labor market. And therefore, every worker out there who is employed and who is looking for a job today, let us allow the government to do what it must do and hope that they will effect the new laws very quickly once they are passed. And we are hoping for the best as the laborers in this country.
All right, thank you for that. And happy Labor Day to you, Peter Mshindo, governance expert. We're taking a short break. Keep talking to us even as you continue this particular special coverage of the Labor Day celebrations, to just give you a blow-by-blow coverage of what is happening around the country, the 47 counties. We're taking a short break. I'll be right back with Josh and Sarah. Stick around.
Wakati mwingine kama weekend, mimi najiachilia.
Hata ukumbuki hii story.
Nikifika watu wangu watu wakinipokea na kupokeleka.
Umeset the mood.
Nimeset the mood. Naweza kupokeleka. Nikitumai kwamba mzima popote pale ulipo, nikikukaribisha katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi. Jina langu Elizabeth Mutuku, na katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi tunakupa nafasi kutangamana nao kila siku ya Alhamisi kuanzia saa 1:30 kuendelea siku nyingine. Tutapatana papa hapa umjue kiongozi mwingine.
Jiunge nasi toka hapa ufuoni mwa bahari. Meli yetu itakapotua nanga kwa uhondo ribo ya riwaya hii mwisho wa kosa. Monica.
It's early morning in Maralal. Start your morning informed, educated, entertained, and above all, know your country. From the beautiful plains of Samburu County to the skyscrapers of Nairobi, Morning Cafe certainly got you covered. Indeed, a beautiful place to watch and certainly a moment of understanding and knowing your country. Indeed, to the remotest parts of every county.
Join me, Linda Alela, every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
The diversity of Kenya's wildlife has garnered international fame.
This is pellets that we give to the tourists, the giraffes. We ration because we don't want the giraffes to eat too much of this. We want them to have more of the natural browse.
We may not always get the opportunity to go out to see the wildlife, but you'll never miss the opportunity to see it from the comfort of your couch.
This is home to animals that have been found out there either injured, abandoned, or confiscated from people who are holding them illegally.
Only on TV 47 Wildlife, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
Disability is a club that anyone can join.
I live with special needs. It means I have a limitation. There are things I can't be able to do personally myself.
And in our journey to talk about disability, we tell the stories of those with disabilities and even sit with specialists to understand what it means for those affected directly and indirectly.
Everybody's life, mine has also been faced with ups and downs.
If it becomes a self-stigmatized thing where you feel like you are judging yourself too harsh, you blame yourself, and you perceive that it happened because you failed.
Join me, Zainab Mohammed, on Beyond the Limit every Saturday at 7:30 p.m.
An entrepreneur is defined as someone who has the ability and desire to establish, administer, and succeed in a startup venture along with the risks entitled to it to make profits.
I'm a professional financier with a professional paper in banking. However, for fashion, it's something I've always loved ever since I was small.
Started as a baby business. It was all about, you have your machines, the haircuts, wear the heads, bring the scalps.
We wanted something that would remind us about prayer every now and then. So the moment you mention Talit, we always think about prayer because Talit Cakes is founded on prayer.
Get to learn more about these entrepreneurs and what makes them stand out in their field every Monday at 6:30 p.m. only on The Grind.
The Realtor, this is where we travel, move far and wide just to make sure that we bring you what it all entails when it comes to matters real estate.
Buying off plan is the best thing that you can do because it gets to be a journey that is even affordable and flexible.
Visit their go down